Emily Carter tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her breath fogging the windshield as she navigated the winding country road. The sky had surrendered to dusk, the last remnants of daylight dissolving into a thick curtain of mist. It had been a long day, and all she wanted was to get home, kick off her shoes, and let the silence of her small house swallow her whole. But just as she rounded a bend, something made her ease off the accelerator. A shape moved in the distance, just beyond the reach of her headlights. It wasn't the jerky, hesitant scuttle of a wild animal or the sluggish drift of a discarded bag caught in the wind. This was deliberate, heavy, struggling. Emily slowed the car, heart knocking against her ribs. The fog made everything appear surreal, like a half-formed memory, but as she drew closer, the shape resolved into something unmistakable, a dog. A German shepherd, its coat slick with dirt and its ribs faintly visible beneath the fur, was dragging a large, crumpled bag across the cracked asphalt. She pulled over, her tires crunching against gravel, and hesitated. The dog's movements were strained, its hind legs trembling from exertion. The bag, filthy, knotted at the top, shifted slightly, and a shudder crawled up her spine. It wasn't just heavy. Something inside was moving. A dozen thoughts collided in her head. Roadkill. A trapped animal. Garbage caught in the wind. The dog didn't behave like a scavenger. Its grip was firm, purposeful, as if this burden was something precious. Emily swallowed hard and stepped out of the car, the cold biting through her jacket. The German shepherd froze. Its deep brown eyes locked onto hers, cautious but not hostile. Emily had never owned a dog, had barely even interacted with them beyond a polite pat at a friend's house, but she knew enough to recognize fear. And this dog was afraid. Not of her, exactly. Of something else. "Hey there," she said softly, kneeling a few feet away. "What do you have there?" The dog let out a quiet whine, shifting its weight between its paws. It was close enough now that Emily could see the dirt matted in its fur, the way its ribs pushed faintly against its sides. It had been out here for a while. Alone. Carefully, she reached toward the bag. The dog tensed, lips drawing back slightly, but there was no growl, no sign of aggression, only protectiveness. Emily withdrew her hand. "Okay," she murmured. "I won't take it. But I need to see." She adjusted her position, lowering herself further, keeping her movements slow. The dog watched her closely, then, after a long hesitation, took a step back. It didn't release the bag, but it loosened its grip just enough. Emily's fingers trembled as she touched the fabric. It was damp, the material rough beneath her fingertips. The knot had been tied tight, but not impossibly so. She worked at it, her pulse hammering against her throat. The bag shifted again. A tiny sound, a whimper, barely audible over the whispering wind. The knot came undone. Emily peeled back the opening, and the breath left her lungs in a sharp, involuntary gasp. Inside, curled against each other in a trembling heap, were 3 tiny puppies. They were barely moving, their fur damp and speckled with dirt, their bodies frail and cold. Their tiny chests rose and fell in weak, uneven rhythms. One let out a feeble squeak, pressing closer to its siblings, instinctively seeking warmth that barely existed. Emily's mind reeled. Someone had tied them up, discarded them like trash. Left them to die. She looked up, her vision blurring at the edges. The mother, because that's what she was, there was no doubt now, was watching her intently, ears pricked, body poised as if ready to snatch her babies back if Emily proved untrustworthy. "You saved them," Emily whispered, barely aware she was speaking. The mother whined again, stepping forward. Emily glanced at the road stretching behind them, empty and silent. How far had this dog come? How long had she been dragging this burden, desperate to keep her babies alive? The wind picked up, threading through the trees, and Emily suddenly became aware of just how exposed they were. This wasn't a safe place. The puppies were freezing. She exhaled sharply, decision made. "Okay," she said, her voice steadier now. "Come on. Let's get them warm." She gathered the bag carefully, mindful of the tiny bodies inside. The mother tensed but didn't stop her. Emily rose and walked toward her car, glancing back only once. The German shepherd hesitated, casting a long look at the darkened woods beyond the road, as if searching for something or someone. Then she turned and followed. Emily kept glancing at the German shepherd in her rearview mirror as she drove, her hands tense on the wheel. The dog sat in the back seat, pressed close to the bundled bag of puppies, her body curled protectively around them. Every so often, she nudged them gently with her nose, checking for movement, listening for their faint breaths. The drive home felt longer than usual, the road stretching endlessly beneath the pale glow of her headlights. The silence inside the car was thick, broken only by the soft whimpers from the bag and the occasional rustle of shifting fur. Emily's mind was racing. She had no experience with dogs, let alone fragile newborns in desperate need of care. The weight of responsibility pressed against her chest. When she finally pulled into her driveway, she barely had time to cut the engine before the mother dog was moving. The moment Emily opened the back door, the shepherd sprang out, her eyes darting around, scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. She didn't bolt. She didn't snarl. She simply waited, watching as Emily lifted the bag of puppies with careful hands and carried them inside. The house was dimly lit, the warmth of the space a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. Emily placed the bag down on the couch, untying it completely to reveal the tiny, shivering bodies. Up close, they looked even more fragile. Thin limbs, damp fur, tiny ribs barely rising and falling. The mother dog leapt onto the couch beside them without hesitation, circling the puppies before settling down with a quiet whimper. She licked each one, her tongue moving over their small forms in rhythmic, urgent strokes, as if willing warmth into their little bodies. Emily swallowed hard. They needed more than a mother's warmth. They needed food, heat, medical attention. She had no idea what she was doing. Her phone sat on the coffee table, screen dark, the reflection of her own furrowed expression staring back at her. She could call animal control, a shelter, a vet, someone who actually knew how to handle this. But as she reached for it, the mother dog lifted her head, locking eyes with her. There was no aggression in that gaze, no demand, only silent, pleading trust. Emily hesitated. Instead of dialing, she grabbed a thick towel from the linen closet and wrapped it around the puppies, then hurried to the kitchen. She had no dog food, no formula, but she found a small carton of milk and poured it into a bowl, warming it slightly in the microwave. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Returning to the couch, she placed the bowl down carefully. The mother sniffed at it but didn't drink, her focus remaining solely on her puppies. Emily realized the dog wasn't hungry. She was waiting. Emily frowned, then carefully dipped a clean rag into the milk. She knelt beside the couch, bringing the dampened cloth to the mouth of the smallest puppy. Hesitantly, it latched on, sucking weakly. The mother dog's ears perked, her tail flicking slightly, the closest thing to relief Emily had seen from her yet. One by one, Emily helped the others drink. The process was slow, painstaking, but with each careful drop, the puppies stirred a little more, their tiny limbs stretching, their breaths deepening. It wasn't much, but it was enough. When the last one had taken what it could, the mother dog finally rested her head beside them, eyes half-lidded but alert, ears twitching at every sound. Emily sat back, exhaling a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The room was quiet now, filled only with the steady rhythm of breathing. The tension that had gripped her chest since she found them began to ease, replaced by something else, something unfamiliar but undeniable. A sense of responsibility. She glanced at the clock. It was late, too late to do anything more tonight. Tomorrow, she'd figure out what came next. For now, they were safe. She was about to stand when something outside caught her attention. A sound. Faint. Distant. Almost imperceptible. Scratching. Emily stiffened, her pulse quickening. The mother dog lifted her head, ears flicking toward the door, her body tensing. The sound came again, just a whisper of movement against wood. Emily turned slowly, staring at the front door. The night outside was still, empty. But for the first time, she felt a prickle of unease crawl up the back of her neck. Someone, or something, was out there. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She remained still, listening, every nerve in her body stretched taut. The scratching had stopped. Outside, the night pressed against the house, thick and impenetrable. The soft glow from the street lamp barely reached the edge of her driveway, casting long shadows that flickered with every whisper of wind. The mother dog had gone rigid, ears pricked, eyes locked onto the door. A low, almost inaudible growl rumbled from her throat. Emily forced herself to move, rising slowly from the couch. She tiptoed toward the window, heart hammering against her ribs. Carefully, she pulled back the curtain just enough to peek outside. Nothing. The street was empty. Her car sat in the driveway, untouched. The sidewalk stretched into the distance, lined with bare trees that swayed slightly in the wind. There was no movement, no sign of anything unusual. Had she imagined it? She let the curtain fall back into place, exhaling slowly. Maybe she was just exhausted. The weight of the night, the stress of the unexpected rescue. Her mind could be playing tricks on her. But as she turned away, she saw the mother dog still staring at the door, muscles coiled tight, tail stiff. She didn't trust the silence. Emily's unease deepened. She double-checked the locks, then returned to the couch. The German shepherd didn't relax until she sat down beside her. Only then did she settle back down, though her ears remained alert, flicking at every small sound. Emily ran a hand through her hair, exhaling. She needed answers. The next morning, she packed the puppies in a makeshift bed of blankets inside a cardboard box. The mother dog hopped into the car before Emily had even opened the door all the way, her sharp eyes scanning the world outside. Emily drove into town, her fingers drumming against the steering wheel. The vet's office was a small, white building tucked between a bakery and an antique shop. The moment she stepped inside, the smell of antiseptic and fur wrapped around her, oddly comforting. The receptionist barely had time to greet her before a concerned-looking vet tech rushed forward. "Oh, wow, are they okay?" she asked, peering into the box. "They were left in a bag," Emily said, keeping her voice steady. "I found them last night. The mother's been taking care of them, but I don't know how long they've gone without real food." The vet, a man in his 50s with a kind face and tired eyes, examined the puppies carefully. He checked their breathing, their weight, the slight tremors in their tiny limbs. When he looked up, his expression was grave. "They're lucky to be alive," he said. "But they're malnourished. Dehydrated. Whoever left them out there didn't expect them to survive." Emily's stomach twisted. She glanced at the mother dog, who was sitting close by, her gaze never leaving her puppies. "Do you think—" She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Do you think this was an accident? That someone just didn't know how to take care of them?" The vet's mouth pressed into a thin line. "No." He shook his head. "This was intentional." The room felt colder. Emily swallowed hard. "Do you have any idea where they might have come from?" she asked. The vet hesitated, then sighed. "There have been rumors," he admitted. "Reports of illegal breeding operations. Even worse things. Some people use German shepherds for fighting rings. The mothers, they don't always make it out." The thought made Emily's skin crawl. She looked down at the mother dog, at the scars hidden beneath her thick fur, at the way she flinched at sudden movements. Someone had hurt her, and somehow she had escaped. Emily's fingers curled into fists. "Is there anyone investigating this?" she asked. The vet exchanged a glance with the receptionist, then sighed. "There have been suspicions, but no solid evidence. No one willing to step forward." Emily's mind was already racing. If the mother dog had escaped from something like that, Someone might be looking for her. She left the clinic with a bag of formula, a list of care instructions, and a gnawing sense of unease. As she pulled into her driveway, the hairs on the back of her neck stood up. A black truck was parked just down the street. The windows were tinted. The engine was running. Emily's pulse spiked. She sat in her car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, watching the truck through her rearview mirror. Then, as if sensing her attention, the vehicle slowly rolled forward. It passed her house at an agonizing crawl, the darkened windows giving nothing away. And then it was gone. The mother dog watched it go, her body tense, her ears flattened against her head. Emily swallowed. She had the sinking feeling that saving these puppies had put her in the middle of something far bigger than she had ever imagined. Emily's pulse quickened, the distant sound of footsteps crunching on the gravel outside her door sending a jolt of fear through her chest. It was late, too late for anyone to be out there, especially with the heavy rain making the ground slick. She grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen counter, the beam of light trembling slightly in her grip as she stepped outside, her breath visible in the cold night air. The mother dog, Hope, was lying in the yard, alert but calm, her sharp eyes reflecting the pale glow of the flashlight. Emily squinted into the darkness, scanning the area around her house. And then she saw him, a man standing just beyond the fence. His face was shadowed under the hood of a dark jacket, but his posture was stiff, purposeful. Emily's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't just any stranger. He was the one who had been searching for Hope. "What do you want?" Emily called out, her voice more composed than she felt. The man didn't answer at first, his eyes locking on the dog with an intensity that made the hairs on the back of Emily's neck stand up. The flashlight trembled in her hand as she tried to maintain control, trying to ignore the sense of impending danger. "You have something that belongs to me," the man said finally, his voice low but firm, as if the words had been rehearsed. He took a step forward, his eyes not leaving Hope for a second. "Give me the dog." The way he spoke sent a chill down Emily's spine. There was no hint of pleading, no warmth in his voice, just cold, demanding authority. "She's not yours," Emily replied, her mind racing. She could feel Hope's presence beside her, calm but protective, the dog's body language unmistakable. The German shepherd stood slightly in front of Emily, her stance defensive, her ears flattened as she growled low in her throat. The man paused, his eyes narrowing. "She's mine. I want her back." The weight of the situation pressed down on Emily's chest. She knew exactly what this was about. This wasn't a case of a lost dog or a misunderstanding. This man was part of something far darker. Something illegal. She had seen the signs when she first found Hope. Marks of abuse, the scars, the way the dog had reacted to every movement, every sound. This wasn't just a pet gone astray. Hope had been caught in the middle of an illicit operation, a network that trafficked animals for profit. Emily's stomach churned at the thought, but there was no turning back now. "No," Emily said firmly, stepping closer to the dog, positioning herself between Hope and the man. "You're part of that operation, aren't you? You're not taking her." The man's expression twisted with anger, and he stepped forward again, his hand reaching into his jacket. "You don't know what you're dealing with," he warned, his voice colder now, the menace clear in his tone. "I suggest you hand her over before this gets ugly." Emily's mind raced as she weighed her options. She could see the tension building in the man's posture, the way his fingers twitched toward whatever was concealed in his jacket. She had no idea what he might be carrying, but she didn't care to find out. Hope was everything right now. Emily couldn't back down. Her fingers trembling, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. The operator answered immediately, and Emily didn't waste any time. "There's a man outside my house. He's trying to take my dog, but I know he's part of an illegal operation," she said, her voice tight with fear. "Please send someone, fast. I need help." The man, seeing what she was doing, turned sharply, his eyes flashing with rage. "You think they'll get here in time?" he sneered. "I don't think so." Before Emily could respond, he turned and sprinted off into the dark, disappearing into the night like a shadow. Emily stood there, heart racing, staring at the spot where he had been moments before. She remained frozen for a few moments, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She was terrified, but there was no going back now. She had to protect Hope, whatever it took. The next morning, Emily didn't waste any time. The police had arrived shortly after the man fled, but by then, he was long gone. Still, they had taken her statement, and word had spread quickly. Emily had provided them with everything she knew about the location where she had found Hope, the rundown warehouse, the hidden cages, the poor condition of the animals. By morning, an animal rescue team had been assembled, along with a squad of police officers. They moved quickly, raiding the warehouse just as the sun began to rise, its light spilling through the fog. Emily sat anxiously in her living room, Hope resting beside her, her head on Emily's lap, the dog still tense but calmer than before. Emily stroked her fur, trying to keep her thoughts focused on the task at hand. There was still so much to be done. The hours dragged by, each minute feeling like an eternity, until Emily received the call. The operation had been uncovered. Dozens of dogs, some in worse condition than others, had been found locked away in filthy cages, their fur matted and their eyes dull with fear. The authorities were already starting the process of rescuing the animals, and they had arrested several people connected to the operation. Emily breathed a sigh of relief, but the fight wasn't over. There were still many animals out there, still at the mercy of those who would use them for profit and cruelty. As the days passed, the authorities continued their work, and the rescue operation grew. The shelter that had taken in the dogs worked tirelessly to rehabilitate the animals, offering them medical care, food, and the chance to find new homes. The transformation was slow, but it was happening. Hope, once a broken and fearful creature, now wagged her tail whenever Emily entered the room. Her eyes no longer reflected the fear of her past life. Emily made the decision then, after seeing Hope's progress, that she couldn't let her go. This was her dog now, her family. Hope had been through too much to be sent to another home. She had earned her place in Emily's heart, and Emily had earned hers. A few weeks later, Emily sat on her couch, a soft blanket wrapped around her shoulders, Hope curled up at her feet, resting peacefully. The scars of the past were still visible on the dog's body, but in her heart, she was healed. Safe. Loved. For the first time in a long while, Hope closed her eyes, knowing she and her babies would never have to run again.